Hi, my name's Prem, and I'm here in Bali at the Ashtanga Yoga Bali Research Center. This is a center that my wife and I, Radha, have co-created through all of you who are watching and participating in the Ashtanga world, who have come here and taken classes with us. This is your center. We really, there's no ownership of it in the sense of we own this place. This is we also call it a resource center. It's for you to come and connect with yourself and go deeply into the principles of Ashtanga Yoga, Ayurveda, and Tantra. So we're a resource for you. We've been doing this myself for almost 40 years. Radha's been into it for about 25. We're avid students still. We're still doing our own research. We're still studying and using all of you who come as guinea pigs. We're learning a lot from you, and we're seeing if what we're saying is verifiable or not. And I was just telling Stu that I tell all my students, I say, do not believe a word I say. Don't believe a word that anybody says. Actually, listen, be open to hear what someone has to say, and then see if it's verifiable. If it's verifiable, then it's true. If it's not, it's not. So don't accept things for then it's just blind faith. Then you're operating from a place that's quite ignorant, and there's the expression, ignorance is bliss. Sometimes, I guess. So what I'd like to do right now is to speak to you a little bit about the principles of Ayurveda. I feel that it's really important for everyone who's involved with Ashtanga Yoga, especially, and other yogas, to have a basic understanding of the principles of Ayurveda. You don't have to become an Ayurvedic doctor. That takes a long time, and I did that, and I'm considered an Ayurvedic doctor. I studied with Dr. Fasant Ladd for 4 years in Albuquerque, New Mexico. At that particular time, his teaching staff was Dr. Robert Swoboda, who's now very famous, and also Dr. David Frawley. And Amadea Morningstar was there. A lot of people came out of that institute and are now teaching and have written several books on the topic of Ayurveda and yoga and meditation and all these things. So I was quite blessed to be in that circumstance and immersed for 4 years with Dr. Ladd in a clinical situation and sitting in with him with patients and learning all the technology of Ayurveda. That was in 1983. I had already had several years, about 5 years of Ashtanga practice under my belt. Not a lot, but I had enough to kind of give me a sense of some things. And finding out about Ayurveda was so valuable. I can't stress it enough how valuable the information was to me and for me as a practitioner and as someone who is a student of yoga. It's very interesting how we kind of lost the connection with that aspect of the Vedic wisdom. When yoga came over from India, there was, I think yoga and Ayurveda got a divorce. You know how we speak about in America, there's a very high divorce rate. So I think when yoga came in the early 1900s to America, there was just yoga, and Ayurveda wasn't really talked about. It's only been recently that Ayurveda has been kind of integrated a little bit, and still people are kind of on the fringe of it. So I really am an advocate of learning basic principles of Ayurveda, and so in understanding that, it'll give you the ability to understand your own personal constitutional type, and also what's called in Sanskrit your svadharma. Your svadharma is your own personal path. Everyone has a specific path in which they need to follow. What that means is that we have to personalize our food, our yoga asana practice, our pranayama practice, our lifestyle. So how do you do that? You have to understand the principles of Ayurveda. And again, as I was speaking with Stu earlier, all this stuff is hardwired inside of you. It's not a matter of learning more or reading more books. It's a matter of immersing so deep that it gets revealed to you, and it makes complete sense. Your common sense starts operating at a really high level. I was also making a joke to Stu that my teacher Ishwar Puri, my Satguru, said that common sense is very uncommon these days. It's very uncommon. And why that is that we're not using our intuition to source this wisdom that's there, hardwired in us. So the technology and the basic principles of Ayurveda are based in that wisdom that lies in us. So I'd like to talk a little bit about some of the basic principles. In Ayurveda, there's 5 primary elements. There's earth, there's water, there's fire, there's air, and there's space. So these are the 5 primary elements that make up our physical and mental biology. And also, it's the energy that's resonating all around us. So there's an inner world and there's an outer world. There's a microcosm that's happening, and then there's the macrocosm. Now, to differentiate that is not necessarily the truth, because there is no dividing line, but yet we're contained within this organism as a vehicle that we're operating from. So our conscious being resides in the center of the head, and we are operating this mechanism of body and mind through the consciousness that's being projected out into the world. So when we want to know something about the inner world, we have to go back to the source of everything that lies latent there inside the center of the head. It's like the image in Ayurveda and in the Vedic technology. They say there's this vast space that resides in a pinpoint. And also there's a vast space outside of us. So they've actually, science is verifying all these things that the rishis, the ancient yogis, have talked about for thousands of years. So they've taken the most high-powered magnification microscope and they've put it on one human cell. And they've blown it up and they looked inside of it and they said, oh my God, this cell is made up of mostly space. They actually gave it a number, 99.99999% space. We're made up of trillions of cells. Guess what? We're made up of mostly space. So that's mind-blowing, isn't it? I mean, we can't wrap our head around that kind of number, that kind of figure. Just like when we go out into nature and we look up into the vast sky during the day, or even more amazingly, looking up into the night sky. And we look up and we just go, oh my, infinity. What is that? I've posted a few different things on Facebook about like how many galaxies there are. There's billions of galaxies, and there's billions, if not trillions, of stars in every galaxy. That's like, the image that I like to use is, that's probably like all the grains of sand that there are on the planet. You think about all the different beaches that are around the world, and every little grain of sand is a galaxy. Come on, man. We're living in the most miraculous, happening that there is. And then we get caught up in like, where am I going to eat today? You know, it's so insane how we get into this closed loop and this confined little space where we're like vast. We're so vast and we're so amazing. So the way that we can source that and then be able to use it in our life in a practical way is quite phenomenal. And so there's a technology, there is a Tantra. Tantra is the technology around accessing this information. There are particular techniques. There are ways in which you can conduct energy in your body. Like in the practice of Ashtanga yoga, we can access these 5 elements and provide a particular kind of energy that we want to conduct. Let's go back to the 5 elements. We have earth, we have water, we have fire, we have air, and we have space. So these 5 elements are operating within us. Now each individual has a different recipe, so to speak, of these 5 elements. Some people have more earth energy than others. Some people have more fire energy than others. Some people have more air energy than others. So there's 3 primary energies in Ayurveda called Vata, Pitta, Kapha. So Kapha is earth and water combined together, and it gives you a sense of stability, of strength, of stamina, of substance, of structure, of groundedness. We need that to operate and function in the world. We're not just this ethereal being, we're operating through a physical reality on planet Earth. There's gravity. We have to learn how to work with gravity. Gravity is an important thing to be friendly with. If you're not, as you age, bam, you'll start to get like, you know, Stu's talking about this all the time in the yoga anatomy stuff. If you're not keeping the spine like more vertical, not rigid like a military person, but kind of spongy and vertical and aligning, that's what it's all about with the yoga practice and the Hatha yoga, balancing out on right and left side and having this vertical access from Mulabandha, Muladhara chakra, through the chakra system and balancing. So the earth element helps with grounding your energy. Earth element is associated with Muladhara chakra, okay, with Mulabandha, with grounding, with exhale, okay. The water element is second chakra, Swadhisthana, sexual energy, creativity, emotional body, emotions, fluidity. There's a relationship it's really important to look at, that we're made up of mostly water, 75 to 80% water. So is the planet, 75 to 80% water. So there's this symbiotic relationship that we have going on with the planet and this being, this physical being in which we're operating from. So it's really important that you hydrate, that you get enough water in you. When we're practicing Ashtanga, what are we doing? When we're doing Surya Namaskara, which is activating the sun, the solar power, the Agni inside of us, we get heated up and we're generating a lot of heat. Now you have to know how to use the heat. If you generate too much heat, you'll over sweat and that will exhaust you. So we have an internal thermostat, which is the third chakra, which is the fire element. We have to know how to turn up the heat, turn it down. If you're in Bali, it's quite hot, it's quite humid, you don't want to overheat. If you're living in Canada or Norway, you want to know how to turn up the heat. And there's an element of the practice in Ashtanga yoga called tapas. Tapas is making yourself cook. You know, when you cook food, you have to have the right temperature to cook it just right. You have it too high, you'll burn it. The same thing with cooking your body. Right temperature, cleansing. Wrong temperature, undercooking, overcooking. So you have to know how to use the fire energy, which is pitta also. Pitta is digestion, metabolism, circulation. We have to know how to use that element inside and out. Using the solar power, we're solar powered. We need some sun. You'll get very depressed if you're not in light. That's why we have to get a little bit of sun every day. That's why people in Norway and Scandinavia, they get very depressed during the wintertime. So there's another relationship that's going on that we have to honor and respect. And part of the technology of yoga and Ayurveda is understanding this wisdom and applying it appropriately. So in Sanskrit, it's called the ritam. Ritam is the natural rhythm in which we are operating from and operating within. There is nothing happening that's random in the universe. Have you noticed that? Have you seen how the sun comes up at a particular time, it sets at a particular time? They've mathematically determined how fast everything is spinning. And another remarkable fact is that we're spinning, our universe is spinning through space at 72,000 kilometers per hour. That's how fast we're spinning through space. Come on, people. It's amazing, amazing. This body that we're living in is a miracle. We're a micro-universe. There's a sun, there's a moon, there's trillions of cells that are operating in unison, that are working together. Here's what screws us up. When we start operating in the more ethereal realms of the mind and the senses, which is, the mind is a beautiful thing, but if we don't know how to use it, it'll mess us up. So we live in a dualistic world. Like I was saying, the sun comes up at a particular time, it goes down a particular time. There's light, there's dark. There's good, there's bad. We live in duality, okay? And that's part of the magic of the universe. It's part of the mystery. It's part of the interesting thing that's going on. If we don't have that mix, it becomes very boring. We need pain to experience pleasure. We need that duality to have an experience. That's why we're here, having an experience. That's why we came down, to have an experience. Now, at a certain point, we start to realize this ain't it. And that happened for me. It's like, I know this is not my home. I'm here temporarily. This is an amusement park. Very interesting, very fun, very exciting. It's a thriller. I've gone through a lot of stuff in my life, and it's been a roller coaster ride. And I'm sure every one of you have gone through your own roller coaster ride. So you got to kind of strap in and just, observe the wild ride that you're on, and just know that you're here for a divine purpose. And part of the technology that you're learning with Ayurveda, with yoga, with Tantra, is part of the transcript that we didn't get early on as Westerners. In the Vedic cultures of India and of China, this is part of the things that they learned very early on as children. That's why it's really good that as adults now we're learning this. And again, it's reminding us of who we truly are. So in learning these principles, it can really help you to benefit in staying more balanced, more calm, more centered, more authentic. Okay? So we talked earth, water, fire. Air is the fourth chakra, the heart chakra. It has to do with movement, has to do with energy and moving things. And then the throat center has to do with the fifth element, ether. So the 5 elements are below the eye center, and they're operating within the chakra system. And that creates a particular kind of energetic body that's good for orchestrating radiant health. So the central fire that's burning right in the middle, there's 2 chakras below, there's 2 chakras above. The Agni that resides right in the center, the 3rd chakra, that is called radiant health. If you know how to generate the correct amount of heat, the correct amount of Agni, then you will have radiant health. If you don't know how to do that, you will be deficient. You will be starving for energy. And no matter what you're eating or taking in, if you don't have the correct kind of Agni, Won't matter. It'll turn to poison. So this technology of Ayurveda is very important to understand. So this is a little teaser. This is to encourage you to go deeper and look into this stuff. So I'm going to leave it at that, and I highly recommend that you study with people that know what they're talking about, whether that's us or somebody else, and also the technology of Ashtanga Yoga. It's quite precise. Don't go to someone who's just doing generic, methodology. There's not a one-size-fits-all, and that's why learning Ayurveda, you can apply the principles according to who's in front of you. If they're 20 years old, if they're 30 years old, 40 years old, if they're Kapha, they're Pitta, they're Vata, if you're in Bali, if you're in Norway, whatever it is, you have to apply the principles accordingly. When you start learning the methodology, you have a nice toolbox in which you can kind of pull out the appropriate tool and administer the medicine. And then from that, people start to learn how to do that on their own, so they become empowered. And that's what Rod and I truly want, is that when people come here, they learn how to do this for themselves, not to be reliant on us, but use us as a resource. So thank you very much. Namaste, or I should say, Namaste.